Hey everyone, it's Gary Shirk from Coldwell Banker La Costa Realty here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Fletcher Wheaton from Los Cabos in the state of Baja California, Mexico. Fletcher is a real estate agent there, and I first came across him online from both his YouTube channel and his presence on LinkedIn, where he's very active, posting great content about the real estate market in Los Cabos, as well as real estate more generally in Mexico and internationally. Fletcher is also the host of the Real Estate Without Borders podcast. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you Fletcher Wheaton. Fletcher, how you doing today?
Gary, what's up, man? Happy to be here. And this is kind of like the second episode that we've done together. We did one focusing on Vallarta, which will come out soon. And then this one will come right after it on Cabo. So I'm excited about it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's good to talk with you again as well. So why don't we just jump right into this? So why don't you start off with telling us, where you're from originally and how did you end up as a real estate agent in Los Cabos?
Yeah, so I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. And after I graduated college, that's really when I started getting into real estate. So we'll call 22, 23. Me and my father acquired some smaller multifamily units in New Orleans and rented them out to young professionals and, some college students, graduate students. Basically, my father bought a property in Cabo and asked me to come down. And he bought this, Gary, as an investment, kind of diversify, and asked me if I wanted to come down for a 3-day weekend, scout a little real estate, and have some fun on the beach. And we got down here, and randomly assigned by the developer was Elisa Herrera. And Elisa Herrera is now my wife. And I have a kid here. So the whole reason that I'm here is because of real estate in Cabo, and she's been in real estate here since 2010. And I got in shortly after we met. So we have a ton of experience together, and just really like living here.
Oh, that's a great story. I didn't realize that. What a great kind of stroke of luck that was. Your father buying down here.
Yeah, no, exactly. I didn't see it coming. That's for sure.
Okay, so for those not familiar with Los Cabos, tell us a little bit about the area that you serve.
Yeah, so Los Cabos is really going to be Cabo San Lucas, which is at the bottom of Baja, right? And then San Jose del Cabo. And those two cities are maybe a 25-minute drive apart, depending on where you're going. That municipality is 351,000 people. It's one of the fastest growing areas in Mexico. In the 80s, Gary, it was 10,000 people. So it's just growing astronomically. And you have these other areas in Baja, like Todos Santos, about an hour north of Cabo on the Pacific side. It's like a Pueblo Mágico, and that is really starting to blow up. And then you have also the East Cape all the way up to La Paz. So you have these major markets. In the order that they sell, it goes San Jose del Cabo, then it goes Cabo San Lucas, then the Pacific side, Todos Santos, Cerritos, Pescadero. Fourth would be the East Cape, and then fifth would be La Paz.
I see. And in other words, those are sort of the level of sales, recent sales levels.
Exactly.
Ranked. I see. Okay. So why don't you get a little bit more into that? What's been going on in the real estate market there over the past several years, and how were you affected by COVID, if at all?
Yeah. So, it's funny because people in Cabo they'll look at a market like Cancun. It's just celebrated its 50th anniversary during COVID, and they'll say that's a mature market. And like I said, you just had this huge population growth, and that has its challenges, right? So COVID, we saw really a lot of interest coming in. You had the 2008 recession, right? Cabo was really starting to get on the map then, and that just, took all the wind out of everybody's sails.
Yep.
And then you had it slowly building up, and really what we've seen since COVID is it's, our two major markets are California and Texas. And especially coming from California, or a lot of these major markets like Denver or Seattle, it just, I mean, especially like an investment condo, $300,000 goes a lot longer way here than it will in an area like Seattle or Denver.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people are coming down and investing. And with COVID, you had like this, it was pent up demand, Gary, but now it's just like real demand and it just keeps growing. So Cabo's air traffic is growing at about 9% this year. Pre-COVID, it was about 7%. So we're seeing more and more tourism come down. And there was like Semana Santa. We had the most expensive hotel room in Mexico. It was actually in the $400 per night on average. So it's become like the luxury place, so to speak. But, at the end of the day, like I said, I focus a lot of that on, affordable type properties, not necessarily the monster listings. And you have it, just like you do in Vallarta, the bottom level all the way up to, like a Bill Gates type purchase.
Right. And do you have, as you know, here in Vallarta, we have sort of distinct high season and low season. Is it the same in where you work?
It's a good question. So I call it peak season and then regular season. There really is no low season.
Okay.
You're certainly going to have a lot more people during the winter months because the harsh winter and everything like that. But right now in the summertime, it's still popping. A lot of people here are doing remote work type stuff.
Yeah.
And
good point.
I come from New Orleans, like I said. In the summertime, it's hotter in places like New Orleans, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix than it is here. And on top of it, you have a lot of humidity here. A lot of people like the climate. It's obviously like a desert, arid climate. So you might get 5 to 7 days of rain a year. So it's a really nice climate. I'd say in the summertime, it does get toasty for a couple months, but it's nothing like the States. So it's really, right now we're seeing a lot of demand. So I don't even call it a low season anymore. I just call it peak season and regular season.
That's a really great way of looking at it. And perhaps high season and low season are not good terminologies for here as well, because frankly, we're seeing the same kinds of things. A lot of it's from what you said, like people can now work remotely. And so they can travel anytime. And
Exactly.
we found that after COVID, there was so much demand. We didn't really have the traditional low season in 2021 because people wanted to travel so much. So yeah, very interesting. What kind of market is it right now in Los Cabos? What kind of market is it in Los Cabos? Is it mostly a seller's market at this point? Inventories are kind of low. What are you seeing?
Yeah, so it's definitely transitioned. We have a ton of land here, so there's a lot of pre-construction going on. But I'd say pre-COVID, we probably had 3 to 4 times the amount of listings. And right now, residential listings in all of Baja is below 1,000. So while you do have a lot of inventory coming online because we still have so much land, I mean, the East Cape, it just blows my mind how barren it is. But you do have a lot of, it's not going to be like that for long. So yeah, you got a ton going on here right now.
And you mentioned a lot of it is new construction, right? New development.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Cabo really got off to a later start than virtually any other major beach market in Mexico. So I'd still say there's more land than there is development in Los Cabos and Baja California Sur. And a lot of that land too. It's not, if you buy land, people are like, oh, I want to buy land in the East Cape. And it's like, well, you're gonna have to attach solar panels and have water trucked in just because there's no infrastructure. So Gary, that's one of the things. We got really low property taxes here, and it's really hard for the government to keep up with having the second fastest growing population in Mexico. Baja California Sur as a state is just behind Quintana Roo, and roads, water, these are real issues that hey, we got to. But the good news is with so much coming in and more taxes coming in, they are able to spend on that.
Yeah, that's a similar situation here as well. So here's a question for you. For those potential buyers, particularly in the United States and Canada, where most of our buyers are from, at least where our foreign buyers are from, if they're researching a possible purchase in Mexico, what are some of the main selling points of Los Cabos?
Depending, like if you're coming from the Midwest, right, it's not going to be cheaper, but from a lot of these markets, especially like California, it's going to be cheaper. You can live here year round. It's funny. I was watching a video on sales the other day, and this guy was talking about, he's like, now that it's summertime, you got to be following up because these people are going out on the weekends. And I just laugh because you can do that any day of the year here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a beautiful place, and there's so much going. I mean, we've got the owner of a company named Pelagic. It's a big sports fishing brand. Through my wife, I've actually gone fishing with him, and I asked him how he ended up in Cabo, and he said he was sick of trying to find a better place to have consistent deep sea fishing year round. And he went around the world and told me about Africa, Australia, Costa Rica is good at this time of year and stuff. He's like, hey, I can be in 10,000 feet of water in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You've got surfing. I'm terrible at surfing, but you have great surfing here. You've got, I go mountain biking, hiking, all this stuff. So it's just a beautiful place. There's so much going on. And here, I find that you do have a very strong Mexican population, which is good because it keeps, like I said, you do have some, really high-end buyers here, but because we have such a strong local Mexican population, it does keep the prices honest to a certain extent. So, depending on where you're at, if you're coming in and you're going to the tourist zones, yeah, you're probably going to be spending quite a bit of money. But if you know the lay of the land,
right,
you can actually spend less than your cost of living in the States without a doubt.
Yeah, that's definitely true throughout Mexico, and major benefit. How about the rental market in Los Cabos? Both for those looking to perhaps rent long-term before they buy, and for those who buy and decide to rent out their property when they're not there themselves.
It's a good question. Gary, I actually had a guy give me a $25 Starbucks gift card because I was trying so hard to find him a long-term rental here, and he knew it. So he just, after like a month, he was like, hey, and I just said, you know what, it's not even worth my time anymore. There's no like database and stuff, but really the reason is because there's just a shortage. There's still more land, and the story has a long way to run. But I would say a lot of people that come to me, they want to diversify, so they're going to get it, and they might spend, I had a buyer from Seattle, he's going to spend a week. I got another buyer from Spokane, he's probably going to spend, maybe a month, 2 months here. The rest of the year, they're going to rent it out. For that reason, I say about 80% of the people that I know that buy like an investment place here are going to be using it. So that for that reason, they go short-term rentals. Yeah. Because we have the most expensive hotel room in Mexico, that tends to be higher than, which is a plus, but you're also getting a lot more inventory that will be coming on the market, right? Yeah. So I say like, it's really all of the properties that we have, Gary, we rent out on a long-term basis. We just had, about 3 weeks ago, we had 2 rental properties come up, and we rented them out first person. Both of them are Americans. First person that viewed it, boom, I want it. Yeah. Rent it out. So if you have rentals here, it's really a hot market. And then you also, I'm sure this is the same in Vallarta, but somebody like my little sister who has proven during COVID, her company proved that you could work remotely. So they can come down here for 2-3 months out of the year. And obviously that'll be a little premium in between the short-term and the long-term rental, but you can get a really good return on that. So that's really, it depends on what you want to go, but it's a good market. And just like Vallarta, people are paying you rent in the US dollar. So it's really not tricky like that. There's no, I got to figure out what the peso is doing. No.
Okay. All right. How about what's your favorite spot in your area? Or to hang out?
It really depends, but I'm really into, especially when it comes to content, Gary, I like to go on like mountain biking or hiking. And like yesterday, I went on a 2-hour hike and I saw 4 people. you
Yeah.
know, so I like to be outdoors, and it's really the sky's the limit here. But if I had to pick an area right now that I think is really cool, I'm thinking of on the Pacific side, which is a little bit cooler,
Mhm.
which is nice too, and that's why it draws that kind of high-end clientele. I would say like Todos Santos Cerritos is really cool. You know, if you haven't been there, definitely check it out. It's got like the old Mexican architecture vibe, like the hacienda. It used to be like, you know, like sugarcane
Mhm.
place. So they have a lot of this cool architecture, art galleries and stuff. And there's just so many different little places, you know, and I'm not going to drop the name, but there's this hotel that I like to go to, and it's got a day pass. And I just, you know, if you take a video there and send it to somebody, they're gonna be like, well, you know, where are you? Where are you? You know,
Right,
so I
right.
would definitely say the Pacific side right now is some place that like, hey, I'd like to go up to, you know, maybe on a Sunday with my family and hang out.
That sounds great. You know, my wife and I are going to be traveling here pretty soon, and I think Cabo is one of the first places on our list as we start to
Yeah,
tick off
we
some of
should
the
do
places
we
in
should do a little
Mexico.
swap, man. You can stay at our place, and we'll go check out Vallarta, man.
Oh, great idea. Great idea. Okay, well, great. So Fletcher, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
My email is probably the best, and that's going to be fletcher@remexico.com. Also, I do a lot of content, so you can follow my YouTube channel, just like you, Gary. So, yeah, I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So, a Google search for Fletcher Wheaton will pop that up. But my email is probably the best, fletcher@remexico.com.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, I want to thank you for getting together today and talking about real estate in Mexico. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary. No, thank you for taking the time, and look forward to being in touch. Okay.
All right. All right. We will stay in touch. Thanks again.